Good morning, checking in from Kuta, Indonesia, and I want to talk to you fresh off of watching The Joker and give you some of what energy and emotion looks like. And I want to really dive in today to emotional hijacking and what that means for a human to be emotionally hijacked. To dive directly into what we're going to be discussing, let's just give you a live example, right? So an emotional hijacking is when something that you may have been angry about, and then there may have been a trigger coming directly after that anger, where now the anger turned into rage. Like, just think of a moment where you were once angry and then that anger just went uncontrollable when it turned into rage. Now you may already kind of be able to make some speculation with the correlations of how this may intertwine with the movie The Joker, right? The infamous character Batman Robin. And first off, Joaquin Phoenix, man, like the actor, it was just like, I mean, to follow up a character like Heath Ledger playing the Joker, and it's about, what's 2019? Is it 2019? It's 11 years later, and they just finally did it. You know, they finally did it. The director was able to create a masterpiece, something that is extremely relevant in today's society. And so, what is energy and motion? Well, it's emotions, right? When you break the word down, energy and motion. And why do things like emotional hijackings actually happen? Why do they occur? And no, you're good. Why do they occur? And this is simple and it's complicated all at the same time. It's simple if you can put in some of the science behind the limbic system and the oblongata, never said that word properly. I'm gonna have Google tell me. And basically how we perceive energy, how we perceive threats with the jewels, as Simmet would say. These are the cameras, the first cameras on the planet, right? The eyes, they're the jewels, they snapshot everything. And we receive information and it goes directly into our thymus and it reacts before we have a chance to be proactive, right? And so something like a person cutting you off, you may react, you start yelling, and it's a litany of like expletives, right? And you just want to attack and you're enraged. And then if you allow that thought to continue, if you allow that story to continue, you're going to start to notice that something that started off as something minor now turned into something, again, of a litany of like aggression. And if you allow that to continue, and now the next person starts beeping their horn behind you, and then now you start to transfer that energy to the person behind you, and now you're mad at them, you're mad at the guy that cut you off. Next thing you know, you seemingly are mad at the world, right? Oh, these are one of those moments where you may have now been emotionally hijacked because you allowed one moment of discomfort or anger even to continue on to eventually become rage or worse. Now, this happens in more examples than anger. Anger is just a very simple one because we've all been angry. We've all been in all these emotions for the most part, but you know, anger, we can all think of a situation. I'm gonna give you a live example from my life so I really can like make this personal and really allow that connection to happen so you can understand where I'm coming from, and maybe this applies to your life, right? I remember, I don't know how many years ago now, so we'll just say like 5+. Let's say 5+ years ago. I remember, you know, I was massively in love, right? Like almost insanely in love, and I had these ideals behind being in a relationship, and when it comes to being cheated on and how you respond and this and that. And so I remember I let something that I was angry about eventually turn into more rage, and next thing you know, I'm seeking out like other guys to like intentionally hurt them because I'm hurt, right? And so how often do we allow our individual pain, our individual hurt to start to want to hurt other people? You know, that's what they say, hurt people, right? And how do you find a channel to find peace, be calm in the midst of the storm, right? To sit directly in the eye where there's no chaos, there's no rage, there's no anger. Well, for starters, one of the things that has always worked for me is what's his name? He was a psychologist, Mr. Strauss. Mr. Strauss, I got into a fight in high school. Mr. Strauss told me, he's like, listen, I watched the cameras. Maybe I shouldn't have said his name, but I think he's retired at this point, so forgive me for now. And he was a psychologist, and he said, I watched the cameras, and honestly, like, I feel like a lot of this is completely justifiable, but at the same time, we have a no tolerance rule here at this school, so I have to expel you or suspend you and follow the standard repercussions. Somewhere along the way, that kind of made me feel better, but I was still angry, right? I was in the midst of just like being angry, and these thoughts were like, they were cycling and they were poisonous, and I just wanted to like, I couldn't calm down. You know? I couldn't control my emotions, which is exactly what you don't want to do. People, I find, try to control their emotions. They want to suppress their emotions. You know, practicing restraint is very different than trying to control your emotions. You know, emotions are not designed to be controlled. They are signals. They are warnings. They are insight that something is going right or something is going wrong or something is neutral in the middle and is to be discovered, maybe indifference. So the way I look at them, they're signals. They are energy that eventually get into motion, right? Emotion. And these emotional hijackings come when we let something like, you know, I was angry with this kid that I got into the fight in high school with. I was angry about the superficiality behind arguments on money. You know, we were like 14 years old or so. And eventually I let that initial anger start to push more buttons and more buttons and more buttons. Well, I was already at that brink. I was at the edge. And so from there, all it took for this guy to do was to touch my head and then push me. And for me, that was enough to do more than just push me physically. It was enough to push me mentally. It was to push me over the edge. And I lost it. And it turned into a cafeteria brawl, right? And so in that moment, I was emotionally hijacked. Again, it goes directly into the limbic system. It attacks the oblongata. And we respond in a manner that we eventually lose reasoning on every front. So what do you do in these moments? Well, Mr. Strauss, the professor, told me, the psychologist, he told me, the next time you feel like that, next time you feel like you want to hit somebody, next time you feel like you want to lose control, you want to be enraged, he said, take 5 seconds to walk away. And if 5 seconds later you still feel the same way, then by all means, go ahead, wail on the kid, do what you feel like you must, and act out all of your rage. But if 5 seconds later you feel calm, then don't act. And that's where Taoism really came big into my life. Taoism, something I came across in Buddhism, and it really was non-action, right? Like for positive, for negative, like it was non-action. And so not acting, especially with the initial response, like if I find myself angry, the first key I find in this is to be aware, to be self-aware, because if you can actually find a way to be self-aware in the moment of the anger, in the moment of the rage, then you're already like 70% further than most people that will just act. Because if you're not aware, then, you know, really good luck. But if you're not aware, my first step for you when you're angry is take that 5 seconds to walk away in a different direction. What increases the rage, what increases the anger is when you try to continuously engage. Even if you are feeling justified in your response, you're feeling justified in your behavior, and it may even be justified, right? Up to interpretation, up to opinion. To continue to engage in that moment, to continue to engage in that environment. Prime example, you're in a relationship, right? And you try to continue to engage, try to continue to communicate, but the communication only gets more and more, right? Fuel to the fire. You walk away, you come back, even if it's 2 minutes later, take one walk around the block. I promise you that that entire engagement, the entire dynamic will alter, it will change. You will be able to, with a more level head, gain consciousness in that moment and not allow the familiar behaviors, the familiar patterns to continue to replicate themselves, you will now put a divot in between the emotional hijacking. I hope some of that making sense, but let's give you some more cool, calm, and collected techniques other than just walking away, okay? First, you do want to remove yourself from that environment that is dousing more fuel to the fire. But beyond that, here's a couple things that I do. I take that 5 seconds, I walk away. I may work out, right? I may exercise, just say, you know what, I used to just pump iron, especially after like the big time. I think it was like after heartbreak, and I was just pump iron, right? And from there, I started drawing. That's one of my newest hobbies, and I didn't think that I really was that good at drawing, but I've really been enjoying it. Like, and I've been doing it everywhere I go. I start drawing. I drew that pool table right there just last night. It's very calming, and I do it before I go to bed, or I do it in a moment of stress. I do it in a moment of high anxiety, and it really takes me away from the moment. Reading is one of the things that really helps. Like, I find it tough at moments when I'm really like on edge to read, but even when I do and I try, I have to sometimes couple it with some very deep breaths. Because even when I'm reading, sometimes my thoughts, my emotions want to get hijacked from something that may be bothering me in that moment. And what I do is sometimes I just stop the reading for just a second. I really make sure to get that air into my belly. I really make sure to open my chest. I try to look up to my third eye. Sometimes one is enough and I get back to the reading. Sometimes I need to take 3, right? So there's no real rule of thumb to that, but I promise you that it'll take you from that high state of anxiety, that high state of pressure and intensity that you're experiencing, and it puts you more in a low state. It rewires that limbic system, which is in charge of some of these very expressive emotions that want to be in motion. And that's where that emotional hijacking comes in. Now, here is some of the things you don't want to do, right? So knowing what you can do and knowing what not to do is just as important, equally. For myself, one of the things I used to do when I was in a moment of like, just anger, literally, I would sit there and now put myself in environments where they weren't necessarily conducive to my growth, right? So this could be things like shopping, right? You don't want to go shopping when you're in this like enraged moment. You don't want to start to eat the chocolate and pull out the ice cream from the fridge or the freezer. A big thing that I used to do is you don't want to start watching porn. Sorry, I'm in a public environment. But no, I'm being serious. Seriously. It used to be a really bad habit of mine. Really bad habit. And like I said before, the eyes are the jewels. The cameras, they take snapshots. And that was really one of my worst habits. That was one of my worst habits because it became like a go-to. Like, I'm angry, I couldn't work out, I couldn't find myself in a position where I could do something positive to release that enraged aggression or energy, emotion, and let that emotional hijacking come in. That would be the hijack. And it was one of the worst go-to moves, right? Because little did I know then what was happening. I was creating a familiar behavior, which became my predictable future. So knowing some things to do, knowing things not to do, very important. Very important. Sometimes, and most times, I promise you, if you just walk away, they give you enough time to hijack the hijacking. And then from that moment, with awareness, you can now say, look, I know that, here is my bad habit that I no longer want to partake in, but because I'm aware, even though I'm mad, even though I'm pissed right now, I want to go and I want to start drawing. I want to start journaling. I want to work out at the gym. I want to walk away. I'm going to call my mom. I'm going to call my friend, right? I'm going to talk to random strangers. For me, one of the things too, I started speaking different languages, right? So like, I have that luxury just being in different countries. Like, I'll start practicing either Russian I'll practice Spanish, or right now I'm in Indonesia, so I'll practice Balinese, practice Thai. Languages, the distraction, one time I was really pissed and I talked to an Indonesian man, and just trying to practice my Indonesian, guess what? It didn't allow me the space to start to focus on what I was angry about. So practicing languages, like, what I'm saying is, it has to be one that works for you, right? Because you can emotionally hijack the emotional hijacking. Now, I told you I want to tell you a little bit about the Joker. Masterpiece. Wow. And what's so important about this big take-home point is he was somebody that felt he never had enough attention. He felt completely like see-through in the world. And I felt see-through in the world for a very long time. And it's not a good feeling. And you don't want to start to seek attention in the wrong manners. Because really the only thing that makes a difference between a superhero and a supervillain, the Joker or the Batman, is how they use their power. Is it for good or is it for evil? Because both of them are influencing others. But what direction are you influencing them towards? Slow motion on this side, my man Ralph Waters. And the movie was, it's incredible. If you haven't seen it, I really highly recommend it, because it's very valid to what's happening in today's world, right? With attention, Instagram, media, social media. Yes, there's a difference. We continuously seek validations from sources outside of ourselves. And because of that, we are putting ourselves in an environment that is conducive for more emotional hijackings. People are now getting emotionally hijacked from the internet. You don't even need to be in person and be mad at somebody face to face anymore. And now they're committing heinous crimes or causing mischief in areas of life that, like, if you just give yourself the attention first. And in this scenario, that may be just being mindful of what is a safe space for you, being mindful of what are some bad habits you may have in order to try to soothe that energy and emotion. And I know right now we're putting only a focus on quote unquote negative emotion, but I don't view anger or rage as a negative emotion. It is just an emotion. It's just a signal, and it's something telling you something about something that needs some attention in your life. So it's not a negative or positive, but it is how you perceive it. With your jewels, those cameras are snapshots. Why was porn really a terrible behavior? Because that was a snapshot, because it was a familiar behavior becoming a predictable future. So every time I'd be angry to a certain extent, this was going to be the next action. Now, what's also involved in that, in some forms, like it's not a realistic viewpoint of love or of intimacy or of just at all, really. But I really hope that this provided some insight. Listen, you can check the comments below. You can check the description, and I'll try to add some resourceful links that may be able to, if you're watching this, that I may potentially find helpful for you. Some techniques, some benefits, things to try to avoid, things to try to really act on, and then don't be afraid to create ones for you, the ones that work for you, because not all the examples may be valid that I have given to you today, and I want to have you find value, something that can really provide a relief for you, because for me a long time, like, anger has been an emotion that has just like controlled my life, right? And it wasn't until watching the Joker, until seeing where I am right now in my life, in my world, in my coaching business, and the retreats that I run, and the people that I've helped, and people that I continue to help, that I've been able to see, wow, Pernell, you have grown. And it's okay to give yourself that permission. And that's one of the things, the big take-home point I think the Joker movie did. He gave us permission to be ourselves authentically, take away what you want from it. His character is villainous by nature, but the way they played him, he gave you at bare minimum to be authentic. And again, the only difference between the Batman and the Joker is the fact that how they decide to use their power, their superpowers. The only thing Sorry, my video ended at the last second, but I just wanted to finish off. The only thing that makes you different, because you are super in your own way, when you realize that you're super, is that the villain used their power for evil to influence negatively, and the hero influences and uses that power to be positive and make an impact in the world on a positive manner, and that's the only difference. So listen, if you found value from this, like this, subscribe this, share this with your family, share this with your mom. You know the drill. I love you very much. Share this with your mom. Subscribe to this channel. You know the drill. Share this with your mom. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking. All right, Pernell Bobby checking out, baby. Hey, check out the scenario real quick. You know I'm gonna be doing laundry. It's one of my favorite spots. This is the Bali Caps hostel. We're here in Indonesia, and you know, this is just a little bit of the insight. The pool table was I lost last night, but see it right there. Subscribe, baby. See you soon.